Joseph Heller's Catch 22 stands as one of the most revolutionary novels of the 20th century, a work that fundamentally transformed how we understand both literature and the human condition. Published in 1961, this extraordinary book emerged from Heller's own experiences as a bombardier during World War II, yet it transcends its wartime setting to become a universal examination of power, survival, and the crushing weight of institutional absurdity. Set on the fictional Mediterranean island of Pianosa during the final years of World War II, the novel follows Captain John Yossarian, a bombardier desperately trying to survive his tour of duty while trapped in an impossible military bureaucracy. What makes this book truly remarkable is Heller's creation of a narrative structure that mirrors the chaotic, circular logic of the military system his characters inhabit. The novel's title refers to a military regulation that creates an inescapable paradox. Airmen can be excused from dangerous missions if they are declared mentally unfit, but anyone rational enough to request such an excuse proves their mental fitness, making them ineligible for exemption. This central paradox becomes a metaphor for the broader absurdities of modern institutional life. Heller's genius lies in his ability to blend dark comedy with profound tragedy, creating a work that is simultaneously hilarious and deeply disturbing. The book's fragmented, non-linear narrative structure revolutionized literary technique, influencing countless authors who followed. More than 6 decades after its publication, Catch 22 remains startlingly relevant, its insights into bureaucratic dysfunction and institutional madness speaking directly to contemporary readers navigating their own bewildering systems of authority and control. The story centers on Captain John Yossarian, an American bombardier stationed on Pianosa, a small Italian island during the closing stages of World War II. Yossarian's primary concern isn't winning the war or serving his country, but simply staying alive in a military system that seems designed to kill him through its own incompetence and indifference. The novel unfolds through a series of interconnected vignettes that gradually reveal the depth of madness surrounding Yossarian. His squadron is commanded by Colonel Cathcart, an ambitious officer who continuously raises the number of missions his men must fly before being rotated home, always keeping the finish line just out of reach. This creates a nightmarish cycle where the very act of survival becomes increasingly impossible. Yossarian's fellow airmen each represent different responses to this impossible situation. There's the entrepreneurial Milo Minderbinder, who creates a vast black market syndicate that eventually leads him to bomb his own squadron for profit. Chaplain Tapman struggles with faith in a godless environment. Major hides from responsibility behind bureaucratic procedures. Dr. Nika becomes so consumed with regulations that he loses sight of his medical purpose. The narrative structure itself reflects the chaotic nature of military life, jumping between time frames and perspectives without warning. Key events are revealed gradually through multiple retellings, each adding new layers of understanding and horror. The death of Snowden, Yossarian's fellow airman, haunts the entire narrative, representing the ultimate futility of their situation. As the novel progresses, Yossarian's desperation intensifies. He attempts various strategies to escape his predicament, from feigning illness to going AWOL, but each effort is thwarted by the inexorable logic of Catch 22. The military bureaucracy adapts to every form of resistance, creating new rules and regulations that maintain the system's deadly efficiency while preserving the illusion of order and purpose. The novel's structure reveals its major events through a complex web of interconnected incidents that build toward inevitable tragedy. The first crucial event establishes the fundamental absurdity of Yossarian's situation when he discovers that Colonel Cathcart has raised the required number of missions from 25 to 30, then 40, then 50, with no end in sight. This arbitrary escalation reveals the military's callous disregard for human life, transforming duty into a death sentence. Yossarian realizes that completing his tour has become impossible, as the requirements change faster than he can meet them. The second major development involves Yossarian's growing awareness of the Catch 22 regulation itself. When he approaches Dr. Nika, seeking to be grounded on psychological grounds, he learns about the paradoxical nature of the regulation. To be excused from flying, he must be declared insane, but requesting such a declaration proves his sanity, making him ineligible for exemption. This moment crystallizes the novel's central theme, the system's ability to trap individuals through its own circular logic. The third significant event centers on the rise of Milo Minderbinder's syndicate, which begins as a small trading operation but evolves into a massive enterprise that spans the entire Mediterranean theatre. Milo's business dealings become increasingly absurd and morally bankrupt, culminating in his decision to bomb his own squadron after contracting with the Germans. This incident exposes how capitalism can corrupt even wartime loyalty, reducing human relationships to mere transactions. The fourth major event involves the gradual revelation of Snowden's death, which serves as the novel's emotional and thematic centre. Through fragmented flashbacks, we learn that Snowden was fatally wounded during a mission, dying in Yossarian's arms while repeating the words, "I'm cold." This traumatic experience becomes the source of Yossarian's psychological breakdown and his desperate attempts to escape military service. Snowden's death represents the ultimate meaninglessness of war, the reduction of human life to random chance. The fifth crucial development follows Chaplain Tapman's crisis of faith and his eventual persecution by military authorities. The chaplain's sincere attempts to help his men are met with suspicion and bureaucratic harassment. His interrogation by military police reveals how the system destroys even those who try to work within it ethically. The chaplain's experience demonstrates that goodness and compassion have no place in the military machine. The sixth major event chronicles the destruction of Yossarian's friends and fellow airmen through a series of missions that become increasingly deadly and pointless. Characters like Nately, Hungry Joe, and others are killed not through heroic action, but through the sheer mathematical inevitability of repeated exposure to danger. These deaths accumulate throughout the novel, creating a mounting sense of despair and futility. The seventh significant development involves Yossarian's mental breakdown and his various attempts to escape his situation. He tries feigning illness, going AWOL, and even walking around naked, but each strategy fails to free him from his obligations. His increasingly desperate behaviour reflects his growing understanding that the system is designed to prevent escape, no matter how creative or determined his efforts. The final major event brings the novel to its climax when Yossarian is offered a deal by his superiors. They will send him home if he agrees to publicly support Colonel Cathcart and Colonel Corn, essentially becoming a propaganda tool. This offer forces Yossarian to choose between personal survival and moral integrity, leading to his ultimate decision to desert rather than compromise his principles. The first crucial lesson from Catch 22 concerns the nature of institutional power and how bureaucracies protect themselves at the expense of individuals. Heller demonstrates that large organisations develop their own logic and momentum, often becoming ends in themselves rather than means to serve their stated purposes. The military in the novel exists primarily to perpetuate itself, not to win the war or protect its members. This insight applies to contemporary readers navigating corporate hierarchies, government agencies, and educational institutions that often prioritise procedure over people. The second vital takeaway addresses the psychological impact of living within absurd systems. Yossarian's gradual mental deterioration illustrates how rational individuals can be driven to madness by irrational circumstances. The novel shows that maintaining sanity sometimes requires recognising and rejecting the insanity of one's environment. This lesson remains relevant for anyone struggling with workplace stress, academic pressure, or social expectations that seem designed to crush individual spirit. The third important lesson explores the relationship between capitalism and human values. Milo Minderbinder's Syndicate represents how market logic can corrupt every aspect of human interaction, transforming loyalty, friendship, and even life itself into commodities. Heller warns against systems that reduce human relationships to economic transactions, showing how profit motives can override moral considerations. This critique resonates strongly in our current era of corporate dominance and market-driven decision-making. The fourth key insight examines the nature of heroism and courage in modern warfare. Traditional notions of bravery become meaningless when the enemy is not the opposing army but one's own command structure. Yossarian's cowardice in avoiding dangerous missions actually represents a form of courage, as he refuses to participate in his own meaningless destruction. This redefinition of heroism challenges readers to reconsider their own concepts of duty and service. The fifth crucial takeaway addresses the power of language and how it can be manipulated to obscure reality. The military's use of euphemisms, regulations, and bureaucratic jargon serves to hide the true nature of their actions. Catch 22 itself is a linguistic trap, using circular logic to prevent rational discourse. This lesson warns readers to be suspicious of language that seems designed to confuse rather than clarify, particularly in political and corporate context. The sixth important lesson concerns the individual's responsibility to resist unjust systems. While Yossarian initially tries to work within the military structure, he eventually realizes that the system itself is the problem. His decision to desert represents a moral choice to prioritize human dignity over institutional loyalty. This message encourages readers to consider when compliance becomes complicity and when resistance becomes necessary. The seventh key insight explores the relationship between death and meaning. Snowden's death reveals the fundamental fragility of human existence, but also the importance of bearing witness to suffering. Yossarian's trauma stems not just from seeing death, but from recognizing its randomness and waste. This awareness leads to a deeper appreciation for life and a rejection of systems that treat human existence as expendable. The eighth vital takeaway addresses the nature of communication and understanding in chaotic environments. The novel's fragmented structure mirrors the difficulty of making sense of traumatic experiences. Characters struggle to communicate their experiences to others who haven't shared them, highlighting the isolation that trauma can create. This insight helps readers understand the challenges faced by veterans, survivors, and anyone who has experienced profound disruption. The ninth important lesson concerns the role of dark humour in survival. Heller's use of comedy doesn't diminish the horror of war, but rather provides a mechanism for coping with unbearable circumstances. The novel suggests that laughter can be a form of resistance, a way of maintaining human dignity in dehumanising situations. This lesson offers hope for readers facing their own overwhelming challenges. The 10th crucial takeaway emphasises the importance of individual conscience over collective pressure. Throughout the novel, characters face choices between personal integrity and group loyalty. Those who choose conscience despite the personal costs maintain their humanity, while those who surrender to group pressure lose themselves. This message encourages readers to trust their own moral judgment, even when it conflicts with popular opinion or institutional demands. Joseph Heller's Catch, 22, remains one of the most powerful and relevant novels ever written because it exposes timeless truths about power, bureaucracy, and human nature that extend far beyond its wartime setting. The book's enduring impact lies not just in its brilliant literary technique or dark humour, but in its unflinching examination of how institutions can corrupt and destroy the very people they claim to serve. The novel's central message that individuals must sometimes choose between survival and integrity resonates across generations and cultures. Yossarian's journey from compliance to resistance offers a roadmap for anyone trapped in systems that seem designed to crush human spirit. His ultimate decision to desert rather than compromise his principles demonstrates that personal integrity sometimes requires rejecting societal expectations, no matter the cost. Perhaps most importantly, Catch-22 reminds us that recognizing absurdity is the first step toward reclaiming our humanity. In a world increasingly dominated by bureaucratic complexity and institutional doublespeak, Heller's insights become more relevant, not less. The novel teaches us to question authority, resist meaningless compliance, and maintain our capacity for moral reasoning even when surrounded by madness. This masterpiece continues to inspire readers to think critically about the systems they inhabit and the choices they make within them. It reminds us that even in the most hopeless circumstances, we retain the power to choose how we respond, and that sometimes the most courageous act is simply refusing to participate in our own destruction.